Hello, good evening and welcome to SKTV. You're watching the Manipur Files. I'm Utpala Longjam, your host. Tonight's topic on the Manipur Files, One Nation, One Election. The proposed One Nation, One Election legislation aims to synchronize elections for the Lok Sabha and state assemblies across India. This means the voters would cast their ballots for both national and state elections on the same day or within a specific time frame. The idea behind this proposal is 1. To reduce election costs, 2. To minimize disruptions to governance, and 3. To streamline administrative work. According to estimates, elections to the Lok Sabha and legislative assemblies cost the Election Commission of India over 4,500 crore rupees. The concept has been explored by multiple committees, including the Law Commission of India and the Ramnath Kovind Committee, which have recommended constitutional amendments to facilitate simultaneous elections. India held simultaneous Lok Sabha and State Assembly elections from 1951 to 52 to 1967, ensuring stability and efficiency. The cycle was disrupted in 1968 to 69 due to the premature dissolution of assemblies and the Lok Sabha. Since then, separate elections have led to frequent polls, logistically challenges and governance disruptions. The Union Cabinet, led by Prime Minister Mr. Modi, Narendra Modi, approved the Constitution 129th Amendment Bill 2024 and the Union Territories Laws Amendment Bill 2024 in December 2024. However, the introduction of these bills in Parliament, initially scheduled for December 16th, was delayed and removed from the revised agenda. Government sources indicated that they may be introduced later in the winter session, which concludes on December 20th, 2024. The reason for the delay is unclear. Although the bills were initially listed for introduction by Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal, opposition parties are expected to raise objections. Some say it will shatter India and some say it will reform India. To delve into this critical issue, let me introduce our esteemed panelists who will bring their diverse perspectives and expertise to the discussion. Let me start by introducing Mr. NABAKISHORE Singh, retired Chief Secretary and politician. Welcome to the Manipur Files, Mr. NABAKISHORE Singh. Next, we have Mr. P. SONAMANI, socio-political commentator. Welcome to the Manipur Files, Mr. P. SONAMANI.
Thank you for inviting me.
And last but not the least, we have Mr. N. SATYAJEET, Bureau Head, UNI. Welcome to the Manipur Files, Mr. N. SATYAJEET. Once again, a warm welcome to our three panelists. And without any delay, let's get on with the discussion. My first and opening question will be for Mr. NABAKISHORE. Does the concept of one nation, one election enhance political stability, or does it undermine federalism? How might the implementation of one nation, one election affect the political autonomy of Manipur, where regional issues and ethnic identities play a significant role in state elections?
At the very first instance, let us try to understand the implications of the proposed one nation and one election. In fact, as you stated earlier, India had 4 rounds of one nation, one elections from 1952 to 1967. Later on, because of the collapse of the constitutional machinery, especially in Kerala, a president's rule had to be imposed, and this cycle of having the simultaneous election was broken, and after that, there has been non-synchronous elections for assemblies and parliament, and that has been going on smoothly.
Okay.
Now the ruling BJP government proposes to bring in legislation in the form of amendment of the constitution and some kind of amendment to the Union Territories laws to again bring back one nation and one election. There are opposition to this proposal also.
Right.
So let us see on the positive side of having one nation, one election. The positive side is that in terms of saving certain cost, as you mentioned, because when we have the parliament and assembly election, the expenditure on the part of the election commission and the state government, especially in deploying manpower for the conduct of elections, will be much reduced a lot, because when we have separate elections, the same manpower will be used again. So to that extent, there will be saving in terms of cost.
Right.
And apart from that, maybe I think holding the elections again and again, on the positive side is that there is some kind of something called model code of conduct, which is imposed about 2 months before the conduct of elections. When model code of conduct is imposed just before the elections, say for about 2 months, what happens is that the government is not allowed to announce new projects or schemes, which is considered to influence the voters. So to that extent, for about 2 months or 3 months, the government's working is a little partially affected. Of course, the ongoing works are allowed to continue. Since I have already worked as a chief electoral officer also for about 3-4 years in Manipur, and since I have conducted the 1991 parliamentary election as a returning officer, I have fairly good experience of conducting this kind of elections. So it is true that when these elections are held, the government functioning is slowed down, not completely stopped. So that is again that in order to avoid that kind of a delay or slowing down of the government's works, so simultaneous election is preferable. On the negative side, what the opposition parties like Congress is saying is that it can really hamper the federalism of the country, because the federal units like the states are exist independently of the union government, and their assemblies, their terms of the assembly should not be linked to the term of the parliament. If these parliamentary and state assembly elections are held simultaneously, their terms will terminate or end on the same date. What happens is that, suppose let's take an example in the case of Manipur, as you are saying, the Manipur's next assembly election is likely to happen sometime in February 2027. Suppose we have a new government, a new elected legislature in say March 2027. Will the tenure of that assembly be terminated sometime in May 2029, when the tenure of the existing parliament will be over? If that is so, then that mandate of the people, which is given to the state legislature for 5 years, will be terminated, and that assembly or the state will not have that full term of 5 years. So that I am just giving an example of Manipur. That will be true of the other states too. So truncating the term of the state assembly in order to bring them in line with the terms of the parliament would have some kind of a serious impact on the democratic kind of the norms or the tenure of the state assemblies. Another thing which is really mentioned by the opposition party is that it is impractical. Impractical in the sense that holding these elections simultaneously is quite difficult. One difficulty which comes to our mind and mentioned by the former Chief Election Commissioner, Mr. Qureshi, is that in order to have these elections simultaneously, you will require additional EVMs. Now, what is happening is that the same EVM is used for parliament elections as well as the state assembly election. So, you don't require additional EVMs. He mentions that you require about 40 lakh additional EVMs, and acquiring those 40 lakh EVMs and additional BVPATs will again incur expenditure of thousands of crores. Whatever savings you would like to achieve by holding the elections, simultaneously will not be achieved if you have to spend a lot of money in acquiring the additional EVMs and the BVPATs. This is one aspect. Another aspect is that in these recommendations, actually it is not a simultaneous elections. They are saying that Lok Sabha election and the assembly elections will be held simultaneously, and thereafter within the next 100 days election to the local bodies. Local bodies consist of municipalities and panchayats that will be held, their election will be held in the next 100 days. So, if that is so, again there will be again similar arrangement, similar conduct of elections by the state machinery, and that is supposed to cause some kind of fatigue among the election staff who are engaged. So, it is not actually simultaneous election, but if you want the simultaneous election, why don't you bring in the elections of the local bodies also along with the parliament, Lok Sabha election and the state assembly? That is also not being considered in these recommendations by the Ramnath Kovind panel. So, another aspect, another difficulties is that this when you have so many EVMs, so many BVPATs, you require a lot of storage spaces, especially strong rooms for the storage of the EVMs and the BVPAT. That again you have to create additional infrastructure to store all these EVMs. So, logistics problem is another kind of negative points pointed out by the former Chief Election Commissioner. So, overall there are positive sides and negative sides, and of course, to get these bills through, there will be in some instances there will be ratification by the at least 50% of the states. That may be difficult, and whereas it is mentioned that you will also require support from 2/3 of the majority from Rajya Sabha. That also may be difficult. That's why the NDA is trying to bring the opposition political parties on board, so that there is some consensus, and so that the legislation is passed in the parliament. But anyway, this is an ongoing debate, and there is likely to be, as JPC, as you mentioned, all these pros and cons will be discussed threadbare, and my personal point, opinion is that this is really not required, mainly because there will be instances of the collapse of the mini state government. Even the parliament can collapse, and if that is so, these new proposal will be difficult to implement. Say for instance, because of the defections, because of the defection, some MLAs defect, and the government is reduced to minority, then what happened? Then will the state government remain under president's rule for 4 years or 3 years?
Exactly.
So, there are lots of questions, then difficulties, and this is although the claim to be for economic development, for participation of the people, there may be some kind of objectives or goals which the ruling party is trying to obtain or achieve. So, let us see, and let us discuss. As you said, the bill was supposed to be introduced tomorrow on Monday, but the government has deferred it. It's likely to be deferred by the end of the winter session.
Right. So we'll see if this bill gets passed or not. and we can see there are more disadvantages than advantages to the one nation, one election. So I'll move on to Mr. P. SONAMANI. Well, as Mr. NABAKISHORE mentioned, that there are a lot of disadvantages. Now, with respect to Manipur, with its complex ethnic, cultural and political landscape, which has a unique regional concern that are often not addressed in national election campaigns. How could the simultaneous election under one nation, one election impact the presentation of Manipur, given the national parties may prioritize broader pan-India concerns rather than specific or local needs of the state?
Utpala, thanks for inviting me. I'm extremely delighted to be one of the panelists today with the former Cabinet Secretary and Chief Secretary, Mr. NABAKISHORE, and my colleague, Mr. SATYAJEET. This is very important. You see, in the old days, about half a century before my parents and my grandfather, they were not habituated, and they were modus operandi was different, and today is quite different. Today is electronic, and today is the rocket, and today is the hyperloop, the period.
Right.
We have to acclimatize and we have to adjust according to the present context and the situation, which is more faster and more beneficial and more saving of the time consumption. I was a field officer. I was associated, particularly settling for during the elections. See, during the last, every 5 years. Today, you switch on the TV. TV has become, the news has become such an important, unless we switch on the televisions, we can't breathe. That is the situation today. Throughout the 5 years, see, more than 1,600, 700 days, you go and deliberating, you go and shouting, you go and arguing it without involving or indulging in contributing in any constructive role. Election, accusing to another one is another one is another, which has no any valuable contribution rather than the earning animosity among ourselves. You see, if other developed countries could do it, India is not developing. India is more or less a developed country now today. Now the EGM or the EVM, unnecessarily blame it. Many times, Chief Election Commissioner and the Supreme Court produce, many times they produce it, so many blame unnecessary, this thing, that thing. Every time they are shouted, no, you don't bring it this issue. There is no such complaint, there is no such kind of a foul play. Every time. See, the moment you press it, then your name is or your vote is being counted. Earlier, how many months, how many months and how many days it takes you carry it, this thing, that thing, a lot of inconvenience. No, we must acclimatize, we must see that we adopt according to today's first world, the developed world. We are not at all a backward country or we are not underdeveloped. We are first developing country now. See, time factor is completely that we need. You see, we are deployed, we are in the uniform from one state to another state, another state to another state, another state to another state. Your charter, you hire the entire aeroplane, then you see, every time this kind of the innumerable issues and inconvenience, and which cannot say sometimes. I was in a state there where the Mr. Imphal, former additional director, SIB, he along with the union minister was waiting. I was leading the 2-year charter plan, my staff. I was carrying it. So Mr. Imphal came. He's a big shot. He's the Subsidiary Intelligence Bureau, and he's special director. He came in, he pat on me as SONAMANI, sir. I knew him earlier. We have been waiting. Minister is waiting for you, sir. What for, sir? Oh, no, we need to brief you. We are helicopter chopper is here. We are going back. See, this thing. See, like that, Nobody knows exactly what is supposed to do. Whatever the order comes, this election matter, you wind up now, you run away, and you avail the air charter plan, and you go by vehicle. This you avail the flight from Jorhat or from Imphal or from Tripura. You go with, nobody knows exactly. Election.
Right.
I am not undermining that any governments previously or present one, but this present system, according to me, this is very laudable. This save a huge amount. This save unnecessary wastage of the 5 years time.
Okay.
This will also minimize the animosity between our political parties leader. Every day is their argument, they are accusation, and every day. Once in 5 years, within, yes, there will be some lot of drawbacks, so there cannot be everything smoothly, well, may not be possible, everything. But we have to see that from other side of the coin, positive side. If the time is the enough time, precious time could be saved, if the money, huge money, see, time factor is more important.
Right.
And particularly the security personnel and the chief election commissioner and the departments are being engaged for nothing. You do this thing, this come, another come, another come, another come. This is an endless matter. So what my personal appeal is, one nation, one election, one election, one nation. There might be some loophole. This can be looked into it. Our former Chief Secretary Sahib has rightly pointed out. There will be some positive side, there will be some negative side. If the positive side is more, then why not that we try to adopt it?
Okay.
If the other countries could do it, but we must see that India is not that 50 years before what was India.
Yes.
India function in our thumb impression. Our money is being, we communicate or we remit it through UPI, through mobile,
Right.
Everything. So EVM, you see, EVM say within 5 minutes that your result is out. What about the accusation? What about the falsification? Whatever you try to establish by some other way, ultimately it doesn't help anything. So you see, this is yes, government should take very, very proper care so that there should not be any hiccup. And the government also should consider the points suggested by the opposition side, and what will be the beneficiary and what will be the outcome in the future. Because after all, everybody has got the right to suggest. But one nation, one election should be a must.
Okay.
It will be able to save that much precious time, money, labor, energy, then unnecessary headache. And we don't want to see that in TV, that throughout 5 years, you were more busy in unnecessary UP matter, Delhi matter, Haryana matter, this matter. You talk something today, what is called, that Mr. Elon Musk is coming. He is in India, he is being treated like a president. You see that. See, he is being treated, he is a businessman. How he has developed. He has got his own rocket. He is going to establish in India. India government is going to welcome like a VVIP, like an American president, because that time, that era has come.
Right.
So we needed to unnecessary waste time for nothing for the election. Earlier is better, but there shouldn't be any hiccup. There shouldn't be any kind of any faulty. That should be work into and look into very seriously, so that there should not be any kind of loopholes.
Okay.
I personally feel this is the best. The Kovind Sahib, our former president, he was attributed. He has discussed a lot of the high officials and the educated people and a lot of lawyers and he says everybody. I think this is good for me.
Okay.
I say that provided if we know that really how to handle, and we must anticipate that which might come and which might go against the people, which might hamper. That is the only things the government of India should consider, and they should think it. This is my appeal to. Right.
More on this in the next round. Thank you so much, Mr. P. SONAMANI. I'll come back to you. My next question for Mr. N. SATYAJEET. Mr. P. SONAMANI just pointed out a lot of positive sides to one nation, one election, and also mentioned that the ruling and opposition might come together and to make things happen. So now but the thing is, one nation, one election could give national parties more leverage, as they would be competing in both state and national elections at the same time. Now let's talk about the regional parties in Manipur. Specifically, if you're talking about Manipur, they may struggle to gain ground against larger, more resourceful national parties like the BJP or the Congress, which have the ability to project national appeal and influence. The influence of regional parties might diminish. In Manipur, how might simultaneous elections under one nation, one election impact the representation of local issues, given the focus of national parties on broader agendas?
Thank you, Utpala. I think the main reason why the opposition is opposing this one nation, one election is because they feel that this is not one nation, one election, but one election, no election. No election.
Okay.
Because they said that, as you asked, because they said that the smaller states, especially like Manipur and Goa,
right,
except Assam in the northeast, they will be influenced by the central leaders,
right,
and the issues, the state issues will not be discussed at all, and the central issues will be discussed.
right.
And so, so the main playing parties, for instance, the Congress and the BJP, they will be able to campaign throughout the nation. And they will not, in these smaller political parties like we have the MPP and other political parties,
Yes.
although they are almost non-existent in the state assembly, they don't have any representation in the state assembly. I think their roles will be minimized, and our regional issues will not be discussed in the election. And after that, I would like to come to the point, why do we held elections? It is not possible to discuss everything. We have lots of issues. That's why we have elections. We choose our leaders.
Right.
And what we are discussing is the process of how we choose our leaders. And if you look at some nations where one nation, one election is conducted, for example, Sweden does it very well. Then the other is Belgium. But if you look at their population, it is around 1 crore. But in our, for example, but in India, we have a population of about 142 crores.
Right.
And the number of voters in the last election was about 98 crores. And if we add 2 crores every year, that means it will keep increasing. So we have to understand that we are dealing with a huge population. And besides, we have 28 states and 8 union territories. And it is a huge nation. And we had our own history of one nation, one election, as Tamo has pointed out. After 1951 election, for the next 17 years, we had one nation, one election. But the problem is, since we have a very big nation, we cannot predict what will happen in one state.
Right.
If suddenly, if there is a hung assembly, hung parliament, I mean, can we what will we do then?
Right.
But the Common report, it was presided by the former President of India. It ran to about 18,000 of pages. It discussed the entire issue. And I would like to come to the challenges. Is it really possible?
Okay.
And if you look at the challenges, then we have to amend 5 major articles of the Constitution. We have to amend Article 83, Article 85, 172, 174, 356. But the main issue is the representation of people since 1951. And we have to understand that we need 2/3 majority. And it has to be ratified by at least 50% of the states. Okay. That means 14 states. But because it was not presented today, and it will not be presented tomorrow, because at the moment BJP and NDA alliance, they command 293 seats. And if they want to amend it, they need 362 seats in the Lok Sabha and 167 in the Rajya Sabha, which they do not command. So the issue is national consensus or political consensus. If they do not have political consensus, they will not be able to push through these bills. This bill. And then the other issue is, when the Common report said that we basically have 3 elections. One is the Lok Sabha elections, the state assemblies, and the 3 that is the Panchayati Raj elections. And the first election, the committee suggested that the 3rd election, that is the Panchayat elections, it can be held after 100 days of the previous election.
Right.
So it should be a lengthy. It is not a one-day election. So many people confuse that. People think that it is a one-day election. It is not one-day election.
Within a time frame.
Within a time frame.
Right.
Because in the last election we had 7 phases of election.
Okay.
It is a very prolonged. For example, even in Manipur also we had 2 phases of elections. Because it is technically, physically not possible. Especially as Tamu has pointed out, he was controlling the entire state election as the chief electoral officer of Manipur. He must be knowing better because we have hypersensitive stations, then sensitive stations, then normal stations.
Right.
In hypersensitive stations, we have to depute large number of police personnel, not police personnel, security personnel. Police personnel, they have to be stationed outside, and inside it is there are central security forces. So we need huge numbers of central person. Then the other is we have logistics problems. Logistics in the sense that since we are dealing with 100 crore, 100 crore is a huge number.
Right.
And you have to use the number of EVMs, BBAP, BBPET, and procuring it, then practicing it, then managing it. It is almost it is a huge task. At my personal level, I feel that it will be impossible. Not impossible, I would say it will be very difficult.
Okay.
So I think the government has to go through several hurdles. Okay. One is pushing through the bills, which is not possible now. And then the other is consensus. The consensus is possible when the Congress ready. Practical, I am speaking about the practical level, because if the Congress is ready, then it may be possible. Because if Congress supports, then they may be able to pass. But the Congress at the moment is not ready to support the bill. It was even not ready to support when it was discussed when the former president was discussing the matter. It was not agreeing at that time also.
Okay.
But if you look at the history also, the BJP wants to have one nation, one election since it came to power in 2014. And if you look at the manifesto of BJP also,
right,
prior to that also, I mean, BJP wants to have one nation, one election. That is a major push of the BJP. And I think they have to convince the political leaders, the political parties, that this will be beneficial for the people. And one major issue which they said is, for example, they said it will cut costs, expenses.
Right.
But the opposition and other experts says that it will not cut cost, but it will be more expensive because it will be due, because we will be holding in a very limited time frame. And the other issue is, we are not able to hold the third layer election for a very, very long time. That is for example, in Manipur, we are not holding the ADC election, we are not holding the Panchayat election, we are not holding the municipal elections, and most of the states they are not holding it properly. So it is a constitutional breakdown, because after the 73rd amendment, it was done during the period of Rajiv Gandhi. They wanted to empower the people at the grassroots level. Okay. So we are not able to hold even that election also. When we are not able to hold that election also, I mean, how is it possible to hold election at such a grand level? So these are the issues which we need to discuss, and we have to understand another issue also, because India is a multi-party country. For example, it is possible in the countries where you have two-party system. Right. For example, we have the presidential system in US. It is possible there, but we have multi-party system. We have lots of politics. They have to convince lots of people. So when India was built, when India conducted its election, India decided to follow two systems. There is multi-party system and a parliamentary system of governance. So I think what will be good will be to convince the people and the political parties, and I think the BJP leaders, the NDA leaders, they have to realize that it is not possible to push through anything. I mean, they have to stop doing what they used to do earlier, just like the monetization. They just did in a go, because it is not possible. Now they need to have consensus. Without consensus, nothing is possible. Right. So I think when we have consensus, when we have understanding, and when we have seen we have weighed pros and cons which Tamo did, then we can go through this. Otherwise, I think it will be very difficult at this juncture.
Okay, thank you so much for your views. I'll come back to Mr. O. NABAKISHORE. As mentioned by Mr. N. Satyajeet, we will require, the main thing we require is the consensus of the various parties in India. So some critics argue that a synchronized election cycle would create an environment where ruling national party could use its political machinery to influence both national and state elections, making it difficult for opposition parties to compete on a level playing field. Can one nation, one election be seen as an attempt by the central government to consolidate power and undermine the autonomy of state governments?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, if we have, when we have simultaneous elections, the ruling party will always have an advantage both for Lok Sabha and the state assemblies, because of the kind of the clout they enjoy, because of the influence they enjoy. That's why, I mean, certain surveys have indicated the chances of winning both the state and the Lok Sabha election is brighter when these elections are held simultaneously. That could be the major driver for pushing this kind of proposal. But unpredictability, you know, let's look at the unpredictability and the difficulty when we have these simultaneous elections in place, you know. See, in 1999, the then Vajpayee government lost confidence by a single vote, okay? If you remember correctly, in 1991, the moment he lost the confidence of the House, the Parliament, Lok Sabha was dissolved and the fresh election was held. If this kind of situation can we predict now? Say, look at the present the government at the center. It is India government, or it can be called a coalition government. Main ruling party is the BJP, supported by the Telugu Desam party as well as the Janata Dal United, you know. And in the course of governance, on certain issues there can be disagreements, you know, on those issues. If such kind of eventuality comes up, in case both these JDU and the TDP, suppose they withdraw their support from the ruling BJP, you know, then at that moment, then the Lok Sabha will have to be dissolved, you know, the government will fall. Suppose now this situation is already there. Let's assume that this one election, one nation is already implemented, you know. If that central government fails to enjoy the majority, does that mean that all the state assemblies will be dissolved in order to synchronize the elections with Lok Sabha? So that unpredictability is there, no? So that is one difficulty which can, you know, really happen, you know. See, in India, we are now seeing more and more of coalition government. Say, for instance, recently a government is formed in Maharashtra. BJP has 133 MLAs and their allies, you know, the Shiv Sena and the NCP, they have their respective numbers. And the BJP does not enjoy full power in a house of 288. In case there is a difference between these partners, you know, over certain issues, it can happen, you know. And if that government falls, what will happen? Will then I think the election has to be held, and they may have to wait for a few years, you know, maybe 3 years, 4 years, for the next round of elections to come. And during that time of 3 or 4 years, or for that any period, you know, then there is no alternative to other than president rule. Will the people of that state like to have the president's rule? Because in a democracy, we want our representatives to form the government and rule us, not the president rule. Nobody wants president rule. Even in our state, Manipur, coming to our home state, now we have BJP as well as the NPF, mainly, you know, by forming the government. NPP has already withdrawn the support. In case even yesterday's event, you know, at Sadong, this cultural exchange program.
Right.
It was more or less boycotted by NPF. NPF MLAs and the minister didn't turn up. There is difference already. On certain issues, if they withdraw or some parties withdraw, then the government will fall and the elections may have to be held. And in such a kind of a situation, what will happen? Then there is no other alternative other than president rule, which is not the best option for the people. So, I would personally feel that these simultaneous elections will have lots of pitfall. And another point which I meant to repeat, if you want real simultaneous elections, you hold elections to the local bodies also simultaneously, especially in the state of Manipur, this election to the district councils it has been postponed indefinitely. Similarly, the election to panchayats also not held in time. Municipality elections is also postponed.
Right.
If the simultaneous election is to be held at all, then bring the local body elections also simultaneously, so that grassroots democracy is ensured, so that people are able to exercise their franchise in time and regularly. But in Manipur, what is happening is that by not holding elections to the district council, not holding election to the panchayat and the municipalities, people at grassroots levels who are aspiring to become members or the pradhans or the district council member, they are really frustrated. The state government of Manipur is really not very serious about holding these elections, and there are lots of discontent among the population, especially those local leaders who want to be part of the governance, because as Satyajeet mentioned, that amendment, 73rd amendment and the 74th amendment, which was brought in 1993, it really envisages to empower the local bodies with lots of subjects delegated to them. But by not holding elections, by not allowing them to function, the vision of those 73rd and 74th amendments are defeated. That is not what is really desired by the constitutional amendment. So overall, there are both positive sides and the negative sides, but my personal view is that because of the unpredictability, even Lok Sabha, the central government can also fall at any time.
Right.
Any state government also can fall at any time, and it's not our desire to have a president rule in that kind of eventuality, and there will be lots of practical difficulties, apart from logistics problem, apart from the unpredictability, apart from the requirement of having coalition politics.
Correct.
Even the ruling BJP, which used to get as many as 300 seats, they were reduced to 240, what will happen in the next round of Lok Sabha election, nobody knows, So, coalition government will be the order of the day, and there can be, differences among the coalition partner, and the likelihood of the dissolution of the Lok Sabha or the state assembly is on the card, and we have to really treat this kind of part very carefully.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. NABAKISHORE, for your views. I'll come to Mr. P. SONAMANI. Well, Mr. NABAKISHORE has already mentioned a lot of the pitfalls that could accompany the one nation, one election. And in the previous round, Mr. P. SONAMANI, you mentioned that we need to acclimatize, and you saw a lot of positive sides. Now, although the concept the one nation, one election concept may appear efficient, it carries risks that undermine India's democratic fabric in the long run. as we've been discussing, we have already come to that. Democracy, of course, flourishes through diversity, not centralization. So how might the implementation of one nation, one election impact voter behavior in Manipur, particularly in a state where elections are often driven by local identity and regional development, particularly in Manipur and other northeastern states, which has diverse needs and issues, and could it undermine democratic representation?
Well, you are right. Our previous speakers too, whatever they said, I fully endorse it. Yes, India is not a small country, it's a huge population. So Government of India must work out in such a way that nobody is being deprived, nobody's fundamental rights are being curtailed. This should be the motto. Now, yes, the majority, since even the majority, supposing now with the coalitions, now majority would have been in the power today. We never know tomorrow what will happen. Again, the opposition party, when they come into power, they may try to again amend, and they may try to again introduce the same bill. Yes, it will come out. But India, I think we are now a civilized country and civilized people now. We have learned a lot of good and the bads and a lot of events. We have faced it. And we are more crazy, Indian people, including me. We, from my side, what I would like to personally appeal to the people is that we are not very sincere in our duty. Sincere means in the sense that in the developing of the nations, to contribute whatever I can do in my own personal capacity for the nations. But we are more indulging in the politics. This is what my appeal. What the present government is doing tomorrow, it may have an impact or not, that we do not know. And how long it is going to last, that we do not know.
Right.
Because the Congress or the INDIA, if they come into power, they may try to again introduce it, then again that they may brought back it. So there may not be war between among the honorable members, the way in the parliament or in the Rajya Sabha, the way things are, what is happening, it is very, very unbecoming and very, very unpleasant. We whole session we waste time. This is we do not want. We do not want. We want that valid point, and we want that what is urgently needed at this juncture by the Indian people. That is what to be deliberated, that is to be tabled, and that is to be brought in the house. Then it is to be passed or consensusly. The consensusly is always good, but will it be possible? That is the thing.
Yes.
But see, they have delayed by a few days now. We do not know what will be their policy program. Government must have pros and cons issue, must have a lot of advices. They must have shot it. They must have calculated for in the forthcoming, in the days to come, what eventuality they might face it. We do not know, of course. This is something new for us.
Yes.
But we are not expert. But we also feel that our time should not be wasted for nothing. This is another appeal. Money should not be, it should be spent like water, and time is a very, very valuable factor. Entire country is 5 years in the election is wasted time. Is too much. This is my personal feeling. We are not that deeply rooted, that kind of a very highly scholar that we go in detail, that we work out, that we plan, and we are not the advisor to the government. But we are as laymen, as an elderly citizens, that we want that election democratic norms, it should be free from, it should be carried on without any hindrance, and the peoples must support it. But that should not waste for 5 years for nothing. You go on wasting time 5 years. See that whatever our Chief Secretary Sahab, what he had highlighted. A lot of things, their fundamental rights are being curtailed. That has not been looked into, that has been suppressed. Their fundamental rights are being curtailed. That kind of a thing should not be allowed to happen. Because we know that we are extremely in the far east. Our hand is cannot reach to Delhi. like UP, like Maharashtra, like Delhi or Rajasthan, and they can do a lot of things. So this is a very, very ticklish thing. There may be a good side, there may be some darker side, but the consensus, I don't know whether consensus will be able to come or not, but very doubtful. But very doubtful at this juncture.
Okay.
But the BJP, the NDA is apparently determined that they will go through and they will pass the bill, and what will be the impact, we do not know.
Yes.
But that's like the good side also.
Yes.
The negativity is also there. But the fundamental rights, the people's fundamental rights should not be deprived.
Okay.
And the wastage of time and the energy and the money throughout the 5 years also should look into it, that I have got fundamental rights. I go on talking unnecessary, this thing, that thing, spending nothing, election. You have not contributed anything, but rather you support the government, you are not doing it, only accusation, finding fault. Today BJP is in power, tomorrow Congress will come, BJP will do the same thing. Then how our nation will go
progress
ahead?
Yes, absolutely.
This is the only appeal.
Right.
Unnecessary wastage time for 5 years should be curtailed. And as far as possible, that the huge billion dollars should be saved. Energy, the security forces and the time, wastage time should be curtailed, but the purpose should be fulfilled and should be achieved in it. And we want democracy, but we should civilize first. We should know what is our fundamental rights. What we're doing is right or wrong. We should try to evaluate ourselves, and we should try to involve it. Let's see what the
Okay, that sounds very interesting. There are two ways it can go, either in the positive or in a negative way. So we just need to wait and watch. And well, my next question is for Mr. SATYAJEET. Again, we are talking about unpredictability of the One Nation, One Election bill. So under One Nation, One Election, if a state government, as Mr. NABAKISHORE already mentioned about a state government collapsing midterm, could it lead to simultaneous elections for both the Lok Sabha and State Assembly to maintain the fixed election cycle? What would be the implications of One Nation, One Election for states like Manipur, particularly in scenarios where the state government fails midterm?
It will be a big problem. It will be a Himalayan task to conduct election, at regular levels. That is one issue, and it will defeat the very purpose of the having One Nation, One Election. If we have to conduct election at a regular level. So I think we have to look at the level of elections which we conduct. For example, we have 12 lakh polling stations throughout the nations, and just imagine the number of EVMs that we have to use.
Right.
And we have to understand that there has to be 3 EVMs for every polling station.
Right.
One for Lok Sabha, one for the MLA, one for the if it is in the municipal area, municipal. If it is in the panchayat area, panchayat. So there has to be, and we have to ensure that the people are also educated, so that they will be able to cast. There will be 3 EVMs. So it will be very technical also.
Right.
So I think it will be a very gigantic task. As I said in the previous round, we had our own history of One Nation, One Election till 1967, 68. But the problem is, as I said, we have 28 states. It is unpredictable. Anything can happen in any state. We may have hung assembly or hung parliament in any of the states, or even in parliament also. So it will be wastage of money. It will be wastage of time, and the nation. I think the nation will protest also. People will protest also if we have to conduct election at such regular intervals also. Because elections, we cannot waste all our money, all our time in election also. So election has to be peaceful, and it should be conducted in a very peaceful manner also. And I think election is, but it's just like it's a tree. It's a living organism. For example, when we started it, it went on smoothly, but it went through several phases. And we have to understand it is just not like a river which flows in a straight line. It is not possible. Since it has to traverse through various places, through various phases of history, it has traversed through.
Right.
So I think we have to understand that people understand more, and the political parties understand more, and they have to take confidence of all the states, not rather only 50 states. And in this aspect, as a student of history, I just remember 2 incidents. one was Muhammad bin Tughlaq. You know, he suddenly decided in 1327 that the capital will be shifted to Daulatabad or Devgiri, and I mean, he had to go back. So even when we take wrong decisions, it will be disastrous.
Right.
Then I remember another emperor, Alauddin Khilji, he announced that there will be one nation, there will be one rate. Through his entire region, it is very famous, Alauddin Khilji's market reforms is very famous. He announced that throughout his region, all the rates of goods should be similar. It was wonderfully executed. And so I just remember two incidents. So I think when we go for one nation, one election, we can go for certain issues like one nation, one rate, one nation, one security. For example, in all the national highways, people can travel, but in Manipur, we are not able to travel on the national highways. So we are not having one rule. So I think there are certain other issues that we need to discuss at this juncture, I think, and in this aspect also, since it is a money bill, it has to be introduced in the Lok Sabha. And though it is not listed, the government has the full right to list it. It can be listed as a supplementary list of the business with the permission of the speaker. And since we have enough time, it can be introduced also. So we cannot just say that it will not be introduced, because it can be introduced because the government has the full right to introduce any bill, any money bill in the Lok Sabha. So I think we have enough time. Whether it can be passed or not, that is another issue. And the other issue which I just remember is there were some kings also who introduced certain laws like there should be one marriages only on these days. It is not practical also. If somebody announces that all marriages in Manipur should be held on 1st of January, it is also technically not possible also. So I think we have to look at the practicability also. Whatever is not practicable, it cannot be implemented. So I think we should stop projecting jingoistic ideas and wasting time on it. And I think we should focus on more practical issues. Because if you look at because we have lots of issues, like I said, roads, communications, then connectivity, then security. I think those are the issues where the government should focus on. Because election is just a normal process to elect leaders. And it can be done in a very, very peaceful manner. And so I think the government should focus more on practical manners rather than on, I will not say useless, but I would say impractical ideas. I think, even though it is in its manifesto, I think it should concentrate more on practical ideas.
Okay, thank you so much for your views, Mr. SATYAJEET. The implementation of one nation, one election could bring benefits like cost saving, reduced administrative strain, and fewer policy disruptions from the model code of conduct. However, for a state like Manipur with its complex political and ethnic diversity, one nation, one election poses significant challenges, as we've discussed. National issues might overshadow regional concerns, risking the sidelining tribal and minority voices, crucial for inclusive democracy. Additionally, midterm failures of state government could lead to governance gaps or extended periods of precedence rule, delaying proper presentation. The centralized nature of one nation, one election may not align well with Manipur's unique political and social landscape. This brings us to the end of our debate. Before we leave, I'd like to thank our panelists once again for joining us. Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for watching SKTV. Hope you will join us again next Sunday for our English edition of the Manipur Files. I'm Utpala Longjam, your host, signing off for tonight. Have a great night and a great week.